Well, it is 9, so I'm going to go ahead and get the screen share started, and hopefully Jennifer will be joining us just any moment now. Let me get that started. Make it so I can see everyone again. All right, Morgan, can you give me a thumbs up if I have the right slide deck up? All right, thank you. Oh, that's right. You only have one screen. I'm picking on my co-host right out the gate here this morning. All right. Thank you, friends. Thanks for joining us for YIC and Prevention Mentor Webinar Session 43. Thank you for taking time on this lovely November morning to log on to the webinar. This will be our agenda today. As usual, I'll take care of a quick mindfulness moment and introduce our presenters. After that, I'll turn over time to Jennifer Redd from the Division of Child and Family Services. And following Jennifer, we get to hear from Ann Jones, and she's going to share 25 years of mentoring wisdom with us. So this morning for our mindfulness moment, I thought it would be fun if we all took a moment to share in the chat what our favorite board game is and why. You know, as we're getting ready for holidays later this month and family and friend gatherings, I thought it would be great to talk about what games are fun to play and why we like them. After I introduce our presenters, I'll go ahead and open that chat and we'll see what everybody has for their favorite board game. All right. 1 second. There we go. Let me get that off of the screen. There we go. All right. Now, to introduce our presenters, first I have Jennifer Redd. Like I said, she's with the Division of Child and Family Services, and she's been working there for about 5 years. In addition to her work at DCFS, she is a licensed clinical social worker with years of experience working with children and families with trauma histories, fetal exposure to illicit substances, fetal alcohol spectrum disorders, and other behavioral issues. Jennifer has worked within the educational system as an educational interventionalist and a dropout prevention specialist. Jennifer is a strong advocate for foster and kinship care, and her previous to her employment with DCFS, she was a foster parent from 2006 to 2019 and has provided kinship care as needed through the present. With this lived experience, she understands many struggles that kinship and foster youth face in striving towards permanency or independence. Jennifer is appreciative of the opportunity to present to educators, prevention specialists, mentors, and all others helping Utah's children navigate their journey. And we thank Jennifer for making time to share with us today. Like I said, after Jennifer, we get to hear from Ann Jones. And Ann has been a mentor and a mentor coordinator, and a coordinator of mentoring across Granite School District's YIC program for almost 25 years. She has seen firsthand the difference mentoring can make in the life of at-risk students, including mentors becoming the one trusted adult who care for and encourage students and the positive impacts it has on their future. She has both cried with joy and heartbreak working with YIC students. Ann is also a certified Check and Connect trainer, and she enjoys presenting the Check and Connect model with me around the state. She's seen the impact the program can have. Ann initially mentored without the YIC program and knows how the structure of Check and Connect can help make us better mentors. Ann has 5 amazing children who make her a better person and a husband who would probably win a humanitarian award for living with her for over 40 years. And she also has 4 wonderful grandkids. Ann is also a mentor of mine, and I'm so excited to learn from her later. All right, but before we get to Jennifer and Ann, let's pop open the chat and take a quick minute and see what those games are. All right. Risk, because it takes a lot of strategy to win. Oh, Vicky, I think you and I are on opposite spectrums of the board games. I need short and fast. All right, Carolyn loves Harry Potter Clue with grandkids. I didn't know that even existed. I love Clue. I feel like this is something I need to experience. Boggle. Boggle is always a good time. I like the ruckus of it. And Life. That is another person who must like long strategy. Riley, you must have time to sit and enjoy. Let's see. Evian says she's more of a card game girl. I like that. As of late, her family enjoys Cover Your Cookies and Always Ligretto. I haven't heard of either of these. These are both good opportunities for me. Thank you. Let's see. Charlene likes Ticket to Ride. It teaches geography as well as being fun. Oh, I think that is always important when we can learn while we're playing. And Lisa shared that Catan because her kids love to play and it's a fun game. Oh, fantastic. Oh, and Ashley's a Clue fan. I love it. She says the entire family can play and it makes you think logically and gather information. Get those brains getting built while you're playing your games. And another Boggle fan, let's see, I bet that looks like our friend Sheila, maybe? And she says, because teen boys love to compete with each other and then play. I love that too. All right, and Vicky added Chinese checkers. It reminds her of her grandchildren because they play it a lot together. Oh, thank you all so much for sharing about your board games and other games today. I know that I love hitting the dollar store or the thrift store to find some new ones. So thank you for those. All right. With that, let me stop my screen share. All right. And then really quick, I need to double check. There we go. All right. Jennifer is here. Jennifer, did you want to share slides or would you like me to do them for you?
Which do you think is easier? And can you guys hear me? By the way, I'm in a new office, so I'm like a guest office, so I'm trying to make sure everything's working still.
I can hear you.
I
Good
can hear you.
news. And
Perfect.
and
You
yeah,
can
either
hear
way
me and
is
see me.
totally
We're
fine.
great.
I have multiple screens, so it's easy for me to share, but if you prefer the control, you just let me know.
Go ahead and if you'll share, that'll be great.
Sure. All right, let me just get that going again. All right.
And then Amanda, I will also be sending you out the milestone guideline packet. I don't think I remembered to send that out to you yesterday. And so I'll send that out to you today right afterwards so that everyone can have a copy of it. And it likely will be updated every year if there are changes to be made, but if there are no changes, it'll remain the same every year.
Fantastic. I'll send that out with my follow-up. That'll be great.
All right, perfect. So today I came to really present on transition to adult living. It really starts with really with youth at the age of 14, but then we need to intensify at 16. If we don't make good traction in high school, then we tend to lose them in aftercare. And so I think that's just part of the reason why it's so important for us to be educating all of our community partners. But high schools are especially important because we know that youth sometimes have a really trusting relationship with a mentor or a counselor, and they don't develop those same types of trusting relationships with their caseworker at DCFS all the time. If you want to go to the next slide, Amanda. So I put together some statistics really to show when on the left-hand side when it says transition age youth that are in care, youth in Utah can remain in care up to their 21st birthday, and that's not only if they have a disability, that's for any youth that's in care. They can emancipate out at age 18 if they feel ready, but they have the choice to stay in foster care until they're actually ready to emancipate out. So I wanted to give a comparison of youth who remain in care versus youth that exit from care right at 18 and what we're seeing in some of the differences. And so the first one, I wouldn't take that one super, I don't know, it's not super disturbing, even though it looks disturbing. The 52% that have been incarcerated, that one's a lifetime number, and we don't have a way to collect data in just the past couple of years on that one. And so that means any time that they hit the juvenile justice system in their lifetime, that's why that number is so high. Since in 2018, Utah decriminalized a bunch of things and had started doing juvenile justice a little bit differently. And our most current data, we don't have the multi-year snapshot yet. Our most current data actually suggests that this might really be sitting like lower to about 28, 29%. But we don't have the right data to show if that's just a trend for one year or if it's going to remain the same over several years. 6% report current homelessness. And so that might sound shocking for youth in care. Those 6% are likely in independent living placements. And so it could be that they have been evicted or that they're in between places and they just haven't found their next spot. And so that's not talking about our younger youth in care at all. That's talking about adults that are in independent living placements before their 21st birthday. 100% of the youth in care get Medicaid coverage. When they remain in care, 85.7 graduate high school or get a GED, which we know is lower than the national average for kids that are not in foster care, but it's actually higher than the national average for kids who are in foster care. Right now, we have about 9% that are accessing educational aid, and we'll get into like what that looks like, but that's really FAFSA scholarships and education and training vouchers. 2% are receiving an associate's or higher degree, and 58% have employment. When we look at youth that exit care right about the age of 18, we interview them at 19 years old and we interview them at 21 years old. The incarceration data changes because it talks about the last 2 years or since they've exited care. So we know we have 17% that have been incarcerated in the last 2 years. The really disturbing factor on this one is 37% homeless within the last 2 years. And we're hoping that that's going down, but every time we do it, like the multi-year collection, it really seems to be staying right about the same. Only 66% of them are on Medicaid. 100% of them are eligible for Medicaid. 77% graduate high school. So you see that big drop. Like if they stay in care, we're getting 85% to graduate. If they exit care and they haven't graduated, then that drops to 77%. 6.2% report receiving a vocational certificate. A high amount of those youth that are reporting that those vocational certificates are actually reporting that they received them like through high school STEM programs and things like that. So this isn't always navigating over to receiving them post-secondary. We know that less than 2% receive an associate's or higher. 11% report accessing educational aid. 100% of them qualify for multiple types of educational assistance. And that number of 11% is actually, so these are self-reported cohorts. We have other data that suggests that it's actually less than 5% that are actually accessing aid. And then lastly, 70% have employment.
Sorry, my computer, I pushed the wrong button. Oh, we got me back.
That happens. If you want to go to the next slide, once you have it back. So what this really means is that here in Utah, we are higher than the national average in a couple of areas that are good, but we know we need to improve in order to reduce that homelessness and help kids truly successfully transition. We're higher than the national average in employment by a long ways. Most former foster youth in other states, they're sitting like less than 50% actually have employment between the ages of 19 and 21. And so we're doing really well at getting youth employed. We're higher in the national average that when these youth are actually having children, that they're married and they have a supportive partner. That's something that we're higher than also in Utah. So we get kids to work. We get kids to have some support. We have 93% report a supportive adult or enduring relationship to carry on with in their lives. So we have some support, we have some enduring relationships, we get kids to work, but what we don't do is we don't get kids into education. And we know that those educational outcomes are going to be what impacts their adult life the most, career-wise, and being able to have self-sufficiency and sustain their adult lives. And so today I wanted to really bring to you guys, we have to start in high school. I'm going to say we have to start sooner than high school, but the transition to adult living program really starts at the age of 14. And so what do we do to increase their success in transitioning to adulthood? And a big part of that success comes through education. Next slide, please. All right, so transition to adult living. The reason we don't put program on the end is because it's not really a specific program. Youth don't sign up for it. They automatically just qualify for it as long as they meet certain criteria. They don't have to do anything to get services as long as they're eligible. So youth ages 14 to 20 in state's custody, or youth that are 16 to 23 that have achieved permanency through permanent custody and guardianship or adoption at 16 or older. And then youth 18 to 23 having emancipated from care at age 18 or older. Next slide, please. So when we start working with youth at the age of 14, and they can utilize this milestone guideline packet all the way up to their 23rd birthday. We have what we call milestones. And so there are milestones for different domains, several different domains of healthy living. And so academic milestones, and this is the packet you guys will be receiving, actually is a guideline and has certain goals that are already created for the youth. And when a youth achieves that goal, then they have their caseworker, or sometimes a YIC mentor might even be asked to like sign off that they've completed that goal. They then get incentivized. And so when you get the milestone packet, you're going to see there are certain incentives. A lot of them are only $25, but there are some that are up to $150. And so they're being incentivized for actually creating these goals, making these goals. They can set goals of their own. They just have to get it approved. So if they want to do something that they feel like falls under one of these sections, or if they have a big school project that they're like, hey, this totally falls under this section in my milestone guideline packet, all they have to do to set their own goals is have their TAL coordinator approve that that goal actually fits what the milestone is designed for. And if it does, then they'll agree on a set incentive. And so academic milestones are focused on educational goals. They have milestones in there regarding working with their school counselor, special education departments, their YIC. I guess it should be mentors, maybe. YIC, I put coordinators, but mentors. And then applying for WIOA and scholarships. They also have milestones in there about exploring colleges. And so if you have youth that are doing college campus tours and things like that, within your educational setting, they can actually qualify to get an incentive for doing that. And so academic focuses a lot on educational goals. They can get incentives for increasing their GPA or maintaining above a 3.0 GPA, for if they have an IEP, reviewing their IEP and following all of the instructions and guidelines in the IEP. There's just several things there that are really helpful that they probably are doing anyways, but this gives them a guideline to say, hey, pay attention. This one's kind of important. So we're going to make sure that you have an incentive for doing it. Employment, we have several guides around career exploration, resume building, interview skills, job shadowing, internships, securing employment, and maintaining employment. And so they get incentivized for any or all of those things. Like there are different incentives to do each one of those things. When they secure employment, they get an incentive just for having like made it. Like, yes, you have a job. You made it through all of these things and you have a job. When they keep that job for 6 months, they get another incentive for saying, wow, you've like, not only did you get a job, but you've maintained that job. And so employment milestones are really based around really setting them up to know how to do a resume interview, be able to do job shadowing and internships, or get employment. Money management and budgeting is a really important one. As all of you that work in high schools know, money managing and budgeting, it doesn't make a lot of sense to youth while they're still in school. If any of you have had that junior or senior in high school that's taking financial literacy, sometimes, like the most important class, I would say, for our adult life that truly applies to the youth's life, right? And they still oftentimes don't get it because it's not something that they're needing to use right now. And so money management and budgeting, they have incentives. They get an incentive for getting an A or a B in that financial literacy class. So if we're taking the class seriously, not just passing, but taking it seriously, they'll get an incentive. They get incentives for taking any type of money management or budgeting class through any agency or organization. They have incentives for creating and utilizing an actual budget for 90 days. For opening a savings account and helping grow that savings account is another incentive. And then they get incentives for understanding how to access and utilize their credit report and how to complete and file taxes. And so all of those types of things that really we do as adults, they're not super applicable until they hit that maybe 18 or 19. So it's their first year of like really filing taxes, right? They can still be incentivized for that. Next slide. In the milestone guideline packet, you'll also see housing and home management. And this will be, if you guys are familiar with TAL for several years, we used to utilize what was called the Casey Life Skills. That's kind of went away, but this housing and home management is still based on some of those very skills. Learning how to do grocery shopping, learning how to do your laundry, cooking meals, keeping your home clean and orderly. They start these milestones definitely when they're in high school. Like there's a milestone for them keeping their bedroom clean. There's a milestone for them learning how to do laundry, and there's milestones for cooking, 3 meals in a week or something like that. And so those skills really outside of when they learn about housing options, the rest of those skills can start when they're 14. They can start receiving incentives for learning how to take care of a home and home management while they're still in high school. Healthcare, they have milestones for actually attending a health or a fitness class. And so that's your health classes in high school or PE. They'll get incentivized for those things. And then creating a folder with important health information. So if they, just documenting information that they might need in their adult life to relay to others, or that's important for other important appointments and things like that. They learn how to properly store their Medicaid card and the importance of not losing it. They can take courses on substance use prevention and learning how to make and keep medical appointments. They get incentivized for learning about health so that they can meet with a doctor, a nurse, a mentor, and just talk about how to take care of their physical health and document that, and they can be incentivized for that. The next one you'll see is healthy relationships. Healthy relationship, there's a lot of classes here in Utah that are open to, especially TAL youth, but I think they're open a lot of times to the general public if they're virtual. And so we have what's called Love Notes through USU. There's another one through the health department. Most of the health departments in Utah have picked up a class called Making Proud Choices. They get incentives for participating in these classes. And those ones, when they participate through TAL, is kind of a little bit of a double whammy because they get an incentive for going to the class, and then they get an incentive when they complete the class and complete the requirements for the milestone. They'll get another incentive. For healthy relationships, they get incentives for meeting with a doctor or a provider to learn about sexual and reproductive health, basic skills for childcare and parenting skills, learning communication to communicate with their biological family members, and then identifying trusted adults who can provide enduring relationships in adulthood. Some things that I think are really notable for people in high schools. There are some high schools that offer classes that are related to childhood and childcare and parenting and things like that. And so those may be offered in your high school and they're an elective class. If you are able to guide this youth through their milestone guideline, you can say, hey, look, not only do you get this credit for taking this class, but you can get an incentive from TAL as well. Next slide, please. All right, and then technology, we all know is an important one. I think this is one where we need a little bit more work for youth because they are likely to get a little bit frustrated with us. We have about four different milestones that they can do about internet safety and consequences of misusing technology, and obviously there's been like a big push for like internet safety and appropriate use. And so that part of our guideline really focuses on that. And then we only have one milestone guideline. And I have a goal to strengthen that and increase that. That's about workplace technology. So we have a milestone guideline about professional and educational etiquette, and how to use technology like appropriately and have it be a big help to you in the workplace or in education. The last one, I think, is one that oftentimes really gets overlooked, but shouldn't be. The milestones are pretty easy to complete in optimism for the future, but I also think they're some of the most important, and the youth don't always realize the importance of them because there's only a few. But they get incentives for creating a vision board, goal setting, developing a healthy sense of self, learning about optimism and the benefits of goal setting. And so when I look at these ones, a lot of times we place really high emphasis on like education and employment, and we don't place as much emphasis on optimism for the future. Optimism for the future is really important. If our youth don't know how to set goals and how to break things down, one thing that we know about youth that have a lot of trauma is that it's really easy for them sometimes to just give up or feel overwhelmed. And so optimism for the future is one that I think, again, in school settings, like how frequently do you have youth doing like a vision board in one of their classes and things like that? They can kind of double up. They don't have to do a vision board for school and a vision board for DCFS. They can utilize the same vision board and still get this incentive. All right, next slide. All right. And Amanda, remind me, how much time did you guys allot? I feel like I'm talking way too fast and maybe not covering things as in depth as I could.
Yeah, please take your time. So you have a full hour, so until about 10:10.
Hmm. I will, where we're at in the presentation, I'm going to give you the warning. We'll probably end early, but there will be time for questions. And so you guys
Okay.
can ask away any questions that you want to ask.
Sounds great.
Um,
Thank you.
Awesome. So educational services while in high school, what we found with youth and foster care, like DCFS is not as aware of like educational programs that youth might be able to participate. But most of our youth will actually qualify for a lot of like the student support services or Gear Up, Upward Bound and Talent Search, any of those programs that are in your schools that say, do your parents have a bachelor's degree? We talk about youth coming into care from all aspects of life, and that it's not just rich, it's not just poor. It's like everyone can be subjected to foster care, right? But one of the realities is a lot of our youth come from families with substance abuse and poverty. And they will qualify for these programs if the program is based on, a parent having not achieved a bachelor's degree, or if the program requires that they've been homeless and things like that. Many of our youth qualify for programs that are within school settings that can help support them through graduation. First Star Academy with the University of Utah, we work in partnership with First Star Academy. So First Star Academy is a program that's probably, if you guys are familiar with it, great. If you're not, to me, it's a little bit similar to Upward Bound. Like they bring youth to the campus in the summer and do a bunch of educational experiences and a bunch of things like that. And then throughout the year, they have mentors that check in with them and they do a few activities throughout the year. The exciting part about First Star Academy that I don't know if people are always aware of is they cover almost all of the state, the entire state. The only areas that they're having a really difficult time covering are like Grand and San Juan and like Carbon and Emory. And that's because they just have not found an effective transportation system to be able to get youth to their activities. So there's nothing that stops them from covering it outside of, we haven't figured out how to transport youth, but they cover the entire like Salt Lake Valley all the way down to St. George and up. And so First Star Academy starts in the 9th grade. They will take you if you have a youth that's in 10th or 11th grade that pops into foster care that you're working with. They don't have to have been in foster care or enrolled in 9th grade. They will actually take youth that are like in 10th and 11th grade. One of the really cool things about First Star Academy is they have a 100% graduation rate for our foster youth, and 91% of those youth are actually going into post-secondary education or trade school. They have a really great pathway to get into University of Utah or Salt Lake Community College, but First Star Academy supports them going to any college of their choice. So they're not just stuck in having one pathway. They can go to any college of their choice, and they support them through that. WIOA and ETV. So this is where things get a little bit tricky with DCFS. ETV is a federal grant under the John H. Chafee, which is our TAL grant. We have contracted with DWS for them to cover that grant and provide those services to the youth. It goes along with WIOA. And so WIOA is really hard sometimes for youth. They have an initial online application, but then they have verification. And what we know is WIOA is for youth to be successful in getting enrolled in WIOA and ETV, it really takes either a foster parent or a caseworker just doing that follow-up, because if they miss their appointments, then the worker can't finish the verification and get them enrolled. WIOA requires youth to take a tape test. They can do this in high school. One of the things that I think would be really great for you guys to know is we really like to get, anytime they hit their senior year, if they're not enrolled in WIOA, we want to push them to get enrolled in WIOA. WIOA gives them tools and financial assistance to obtain a driver's license, and also does career and educational planning with them. And then when they add ETV on top of that, ETV gives them up to $5,000 a year for college expenses, college-related expenses. Where this can become really important and getting creative with, so ETV can only be utilized for 5 years. So we don't want to start ETV really early on every child. But some of you have worked with those kids that are really motivated to do concurrent enrollment and maybe even early college. And concurrent enrollment, it's pretty affordable. We can usually find ways to pay for that. Early college, for a lot of youth, even if it's just a summer program, is full tuition, right? And so if you have a youth that is really interested in early college and concurrent enrollment, ETV can actually pay for that. And so it's a really great resource for these kids to get signed up for. But it's one that's a little bit harder for them sometimes. WIOA gives them an incentive for graduating high school, and it's a large incentive. And so I think it's around $500 for graduating high school. We give them an incentive for enrolling in ETV. Once they've taken their TABE test, they get $150. And so those are some things that I think are helpful really for like school counselors and mentors to know, is really how those services can help youth. Getting a driver's license and getting your high school diploma are two of the most important things for success in adulthood. All right, next slide. Education services post-secondary. I went ahead, I'm pretty sure you guys are all really familiar with FAFSA, right? One thing that gets really confusing for like FAFSA and then other things when youth are in foster care is just the age ranges. So youth who have experienced foster care at 13 years old or older don't need parent information for FAFSA regardless of their permanency. So that means even if they reunify with their parents, they can still get that FAFSA without having parent information. And it doesn't matter their length of stay in foster care. There's no minimum length of stay, and doesn't matter what type of permanency they go to. Education and training vouchers, I talked about a little bit in the last slide. I think that for school personnel to really be able to help youth, understanding what education and training vouchers really is and how it can help. ETV awards up to $5,000 per year. and they can receive ETV funds for 5 years. They do not have to be consecutive. And so 5 years, if they are doing some things in high school that they need ETV funds, and then let's say they decide that they're going to take a gap year, that gap year will not count against their ETV 5 years. And so education related expenses can be almost anything. It's supporting them in tuition if they need it, in housing, buying books, and other supplies. We have paid for youth to be able to take like the MCAT test for medical school and things like that. And so ETV can be used for anything. It can also be used for trades and even job training, such as if they're doing an internship to learn how to be a tattoo artist. Anything that is going to lead to them getting employment, education and training vouchers can be utilized for. Why that's so important to have that understanding is when you get that kid in your office and you're trying to make a life plan with them and saying, what are your goals? If they don't have college in mind, ETV can still help them get workplace training of any sort. All right, next slide.
Real quick before I advance, I forgot in the chat a slide or two ago, we had a question asking if taking therapy counts as one of the guidelines.
That's a really good question. And I think that there would be a really great argument for a youth to set a goal around that and communicate that with their TAL coordinator, because that would really fall under like those either those healthy relationships or the health one. And honestly, if you all have a youth that would be encouraged by getting an incentive for taking therapy and participating in therapy, I think I can talk the TAL coordinators any day of the week into saying, yes, let's incentivize youth for doing that. The older they get, sometimes the harder it is for them to want to stay engaged, even when they know they need it. So great question. All right, so you guys have probably heard of the Olin Walker Transition to Adult Living Scholarship. When you get these slides, that top spot, Olin Walker Transition to Adult Living, that's underlined will actually take you to DCFS's website where it lists a few other resources. Olin Walker, when I was working in the schools, and when I was being a foster parent for teens, I could never find the information on Olin Walker. It was just scattered all over the internet, wherever. I could never find it. It was super hard for me to find the right place. DCFS workers didn't really know where it was at. They now have an online form. And so there's links to that in here. And so there's the link for the online Google form to apply and a link to reapply. The Olin Walker, they have to be attending a school that's within Utah. And so it won't cover out of state schools at all. It's a really, really great scholarship because when you get a child that has FAFSA and the Olin Walker Scholarship and ETVs, typically Olin Walker pays out at different increments. It doesn't just give them a big lump sum at the beginning of the school semester for them to go spend. It'll pay a certain amount, usually every month, so that they're able to really continue covering their housing and stay stable. The Siegfried and Ellen Carson Scholarship is at University of Utah. This one, I want to give you guys a warning. When you go to the website, it's a little bit hard to find specifically that scholarship. And so it'll take you to their basic scholarship site. There's a big red box on that says other scholarships. And there's a little, like one of the little round circles that says, like, flip this card over. And so you press that. It doesn't look like there's going to be anything there. And that's where you'll find that scholarship. It's for University of Utah students who are currently in or have ever been in foster care. And so, again, it's another really good scholarship, but that one is specific to University of Utah. We have another one that I will update the slides as soon as I get appropriate contact information and links to, but Weber State University has a new program and scholarship program for youth in foster care as well. So that will be updated as soon as we have the appropriate information. Next slide, please. All right, so I wanted to go over with you guys. I know that you're working with youth that are in school. What I found when I worked in the school is if I can prepare a youth prior to graduation to know what's available to them, they may have more success. What I found since working for DCFS is kids have enduring relationships, sometimes with their school counselors, mentors, a specific teacher, some things like that. Sorry about that. And they don't have that enduring relationship with DCFS. We have to be really realistic in that no matter how good their experiences with foster care, they were still pulled away from their home of origin. They have trauma regarding that. A lot of times, the second they hit 18, they want to be done. They want to be out. They never want to see us again. Youth do not have the understanding that if they work with us in aftercare, it doesn't mean that they have an open case type. It doesn't mean that they're having to go back before a judge. They're very afraid that if they work with us, we're going to somehow pull them back into foster care and make them report to judges and have all of the same stuff that they went through in foster care. They don't understand the difference between working aftercare voluntarily and asking for help. So I felt like it was really important maybe to let you guys know what aftercare services really are, so that when you have that youth that's a senior in high school and you're sitting down with them and talking about like what really comes next and how do they get ready for college and to succeed in life, that they know that there's financial assistance to them because they were in foster care. And so some of the things, TAL funding is needs-based and it's limited to available funds. So we get a pot of money from the federal government every year. We can't spend more than that. We don't have more than that. And then it's divided up between the 5 regions based on how many youth are in care in each region. Some of the things that TAL funds themselves can help with are school-related assistance, so college application fees, limited clothing needs. So if they need some like business casual clothing for college, we can help them with that. And then we have a laptop match that's up to $1,000. So the youth does need to be helping earn some of that laptop match, but we'll match up to $1,000 for a laptop. Transportation, car insurance, we can only pay liability. There's a state law associated with that, which really disturbs youth because if they have a nicer car, they do need full coverage insurance. And sometimes that's really hard for them to afford, but we can pay the liability portion. Car payments, we can pay, that's usually a one-time thing for a car payment. It's really under special circumstances. And then car repairs, registration, we can help them get alternative transportation. And so if they live in an area where maybe having a bicycle, they can't afford a car, but a bicycle is feasible to get them to school, to the grocery store, to wherever, we could buy a bike, an electric scooter, things like that. And if they live somewhere that has mass transportation, they can get passes. They can get passes for mass transportation until their 23rd birthday. Really, that one's one of the easiest ones to help them with. Employment, specialized clothing, and so that can be any type of clothing. Again, it could be like helping them buy business casual clothing. It could be helping them buy scrubs if they're working in nursing and things like that. Non-slip shoes, anything that's required for their workplace for clothing, we can help them purchase. We can pay for a food handler's permit, and we can pay for specialized work training. TAL funds are different than ETV, and so this can be in addition to ETV, or it can be if for some reason their specialized work training wouldn't qualify for ETV, then we can help pay for that with TAL funding. Housing, we can pay for rent and deposit, and that's usually, again, like needs-based. And so a lot of times we'll have youth, we pay for their deposit and their first month's rent as they exit care. We have the TAL coordinators in each region have great big supply rooms, and they have furniture there. Usually if it's a bed, they have to order a bed. But they have towels and sheets, pots and pans, vacuum cleaners, just about everything you can think of, anything that youth would need to set themselves up in their first apartment. We can pay for storage unit fees and then emergency housing for homeless youth. And so that would be putting them up in hotels and things like that while we're situating them to get into a better living situation. Personal care, we can help them. We do a cell phone match. So again, that's like the laptop. We'll do a cell phone match up to $400, which would allow them to get a nicer phone if that's what they choose, if they want to do that match. We can help them pay for cell phone bills, hygiene products, winter clothing. We can help them pay for groceries. If they show us the need that they need groceries, we help them pay for groceries. And then barriers to employment. I put the one in parentheses, tattoo removal. A lot of times we know that some things can be barriers, but we will do anything that we can to help that youth reduce those barriers. Next slide. All right, we're about to wind up, and then I want you guys to just ask any and all questions that you have. Timelines to remember, why I felt like this was an important one for anyone who's working with a youth in high school. A lot of you may have, when you start hitting 17 or 18 years old, like you're ready to move out, you're ready to be out in the world, right? And so we have some timelines here that are really important, that if you're ever on a child and family team, or if a youth is talking to you about their life, it's really just good information to know to help guide them. Youth who receive permanency through permanent custody and guardianship or adoption at the age of 16-year-old or older qualify for TAL aftercare funds and ETV. Why that's so important is if they have an adoption or custody and guardianship a week before they turn 16, they don't qualify. I try and make sure that everybody in DCFS is aware of these timelines, but we're now spreading the word to anybody that's working with that youth. So as that youth is talking to you and setting life goals and life plans, if you know these timelines, you can talk to them about why it might be important, to, if they're almost 16, to wait until they're 16 to get adopted or things like that. Emancipation, this one's a big one. I graduated from high school a year early. I moved out of my parents' house when I was 17 years old, and I don't think that that's super uncommon in all honesty. So we have youth in foster care that finish high school early as well. We've had youth finish high school. We have one that's at University of Utah right now living in the dorms who's only 16 years old. And so it's a reality that they may finish high school early, and all they're thinking about is getting out of foster care. They don't want to go to court anymore. And they're saying, well, I'm graduated, I have a job. If they have an apartment and independent living placement, they want their case to close. If they close their case at any time before their 18th birthday, they do not qualify for TAL aftercare, ETV funds, or former foster Medicaid. And so it's really important, I think, for anyone and everyone on a team to understand that for youth that are aging out, that 18th birthday is really, really important to help them understand to keep that goal as opposed to closing their case at 17. Independent living placements, I added this on there because this is where we see youth wanting to emancipate and close their case at 17. Independent living placements, sometimes people have been under a myth that a youth will only get help for like 90 days in an independent living placement. There's no timeline. They can remain in an independent living placement as long as they need to. Independent living placements are a placement type that the youth is on their own. They're in their own apartment. They're still in foster care, but they receive the foster care payment to help pay their rent and pay their way. Youth either love or hate independent living placements because they're still in foster care. They still have to report to a judge and go to court every 3 to 6 months. One thing that we're trying to really push for independent living placements, they can stay in that placement until their 21st birthday if they choose to and can show the need to. This is why I showed you guys the first slides. Those youth that are choosing to stay in care a little bit longer, a lot of times it's only until they're like 19. Sometime in the middle of their 19th year, they're graduating high school at a higher rate just because of that little bit of extra time that they're getting in foster care. They're not ending up homeless at the same rates. And so the youth really need to understand as they're making life goals, independent living placements, even though you're still in care, are your friend. They're not your enemy. It's something to stabilize you and really get you ready for your adult life. And what we found is youth that close those placements early usually do have struggles with housing within about 6 to 9 months of exiting care. And so we do encourage youth to actually use their voice to let judges and caseworkers and guardian ad litems know that, hey, I'm not quite ready to exit care yet. I still want this help a little bit longer. And so if you guys can, if you're doing life plans and things and have the opportunity to really explain to them why independent living can be helpful for them, then it's just really greatly appreciated, because we see the youth that are staying in just even for a few months longer having better outcomes than the youth that exit as soon as they can. All right, next slide. Yeah, I think that's where we're at. So any questions? Any and all questions related to TAL, DCFS, I'll do my best to answer anything.
All right, friends, you're welcome to come off mute and ask or add it to the chat, and I will read it to Jennifer. We have time. Okay.
Hello.
Yes. Julieta, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So my question is, if I have a case, if my student was adopted at age 17, but right now he's 18 and he's still on, he's still senior.
Okay.
Can he emancipate and get the help that you're talking about? All the things that you have been talking about, especially the ETV.
Yes, he'll automatically qualify for the ETV since he was adopted at
Sorry,
7.
I cannot hear you.
Okay, let me see if I got
What I did.
I'm
that
not
any better?
sure, Julieta. I can hear you, Jennifer. So I wonder
Okay.
if it might be your computer, Julieta. Sorry.
So any youth that achieves permanency, so if they're adopted at even their 16th birthday or later, they qualify for ETV. They do have to apply for ETV by applying for WIOA, and that's one of the harder parts for them, is just getting through that process of applying for WIOA and taking the TABE test. That's the way that it's set up right now. If they can't make it through that TABE testing, then you can talk to DWS and ask for a waiver for them to get ETV only. But what we've found is having them duly enrolled in WIOA and ETV, they get more benefits. Between the two programs, we really can stabilize a youth a lot better if they're in both.
Okay, sorry, I just hear part of it. Sorry, I didn't know why I couldn't hear you. But can I email you later because I couldn't. I'm sorry, something was happening with my computer.
And of course, we'll have it recorded, Julieta. So you're welcome
Oh,
to
yeah.
email Jennifer, or you can watch the recording. Either way, my
Okay,
friend.
that's true. That's true. Thank you. Yeah, it was very important. It was a very important question. I couldn't hear anything. Anyway, thank you for your question, your answer.
A comment, just thank you for the information. It will be a great help to Cache County School District, and they appreciate your time, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Friends, well, if we don't have any other questions right now, I think we'll go ahead and start time with Ann Jones. And thank you so much, Jennifer. I always learn something new every time I get together with you. So thank you for taking time with us today. We'll do the follow-up like we said, and make sure you get was it the guidelines packet, I think you said?
It's a guidelines packet, and I'll send that out to you right now, Amanda, so you can send it out to everyone. And honestly, anybody, if you have any questions or you have a specific case that you want to run by me because you're just not getting the support that you need or solutions you need from DCFS, please feel free to email me. We want solutions for these kiddos. We know that especially our older youth oftentimes are labeled, they have high behavioral needs, not a lie, and they're a little bit different than your average everyday teenager. So when we think about your average everyday teenager that's a little bit argumentative and hates doing chores, just amp that up a little bit for some of these kids that are in care, as far as their behaviors go. And so really, we know there's some high behavior needs. We know there's a lot of disconnect with those youth and caseworkers. I want to just say thank you for all of you for the work that you're doing with them. But if you run into any issues with whether it's milestone guidelines, whether it's any type of support that you feel like a youth needs, please feel free to email me at any time.
Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. We are one big team and we are here to support our kids. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right, Anne, I see you have queued up. So let's get your slides shared and we will get going with that presentation. And hopefully we won't have the computer glitches this time. All right. Oh, let's see. Your sound is not working for us. I wonder. You might need to turn your volume up. Okay, what I'm going to try is muting you and unmuting you. Oh, you have to unmute you. So try that. I'm not hearing you there. For some reason, it's not picking up your microphone. All right, friends, give us just a moment here while we solve the tech issues. Well, that's a good idea. Morgan suggested maybe, Anne, if you want to leave and come back to us, that might reconnect the microphone. We had it all tested and ready earlier, so of course this is how it works. You know how technology is. It's great until it's not. That's all there is to it. All right. Well, if you need to, take a moment to stand and stretch. I see lots of sunshine behind everybody in windows. Oh, thank you for your patience while we sort this out. I am going to double check my end of things. Okay. Well, maybe while we wait for Anne, just while we're stalling for time, I was curious, since we have some mentors who've been with us a few years, if anybody has used the tall guidelines with their kids and if maybe they have a success story they'd be willing to share with us. Or any kind of story about their experience.
I have a story.
Yes, please, Dawn.
I have a kid that has been in the system since second grade, and he actually was under the mentoringship of Debbie for many, many, many years. Anyways, I've had him since last year, and he was super excited to tell me about his adoption that's coming up December 23rd. And then I saw him again yesterday, and he told me that he has to put his adoption off because of the 16-year-old rule. He won't be 16 until March. And the way he put it is they're trying to sabotage my adoption, but we know that that's not the case. But I just told him, I'm like, you just got a few more months. So he's the one that let me know that rule was there, because when I fostered, it was a lot different. And so he just let me know. He's like, I can't until I'm 16 so that I can get all these services. He goes, I know it's better for me, but so yeah, so it's kind of like he was sad, disappointed, but at the same time he understood the benefits of it, and he was willing to wait for that. So March, it'll be in March.
Oh, it's a not yet is where he's at. So
Not
I'm glad
yet, and he just realizes he's very smart, and he realizes the opportunities that will come to him if he just holds off for a few more months.
Yeah, and I think this is one of those moments where in the end he's gonna see that value of his patients. So thank you so much, Dawn, for sharing that. I love it when we do have a success story, especially when we can help kids get more resources. So Anne is back. Let's see if we can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
We can. Wonderful. All right.
All right.
Let me get my screen share started again and
All right.
we will get rocking and rolling.
Well, while you're working on that, I loved what Jennifer had to say. I mean, it's like sometimes I feel like we get all these bits and pieces of TAL and milestones and all that. So to have that all brought together, that was wonderful. I am excited that we have this to share because I think this will be a great thing for us to all share and to make sure that everybody knows about. Good stuff. So anyway, Amanda asked me, as some of you probably know, I'm getting ready to retire. I have finally reached that golden age where I get to go on. So she asked if I would talk for just a little bit today about some of the lessons and some of the things that I have learned over the last 25 years. So next slide, Amanda. As I'm looking over all the people that are here, I'm thinking that this may not be a great subject only because so many of you already know a lot of this stuff that I'm going to go over today. And I already know you. I've trained with a lot of you and you guys are amazing at this. So I hope
to interrupt you and add though, Anne, as we're recording this. So please make sure you share all of your wisdom for our friends who are not with us live today.
Yes, I'm sure people will see this and just want to dip into this great well of knowledge. Anyway, I'm excited to be here, but I wanted to start off by saying what I'll bet all of you think about this job. This job has been the best job I could ever have hoped for.
Cue the tears. Anne and I tried to get it all out earlier this weekend.
I've loved this. It's been the best job ever. I've loved meeting you guys. I have loved working with kids that absolutely felt like they had no chance. I have loved being part of this team. I love all of us here in the state, that I know that when I have a student that is going to another district or a faraway part of the state, that they are going to get the kind of treatment that they're going to get. I love all of that. But I also need to say it's been the worst job you ever could have chosen. I mean, you guys are smart people, and yet you chose to do this with your life. I really worry about some of you because this is hard work and it is draining. It can be a real soul suck. It's hard to watch kids make the worst decisions they could possibly make. It's hard to watch kids bottom out, and yet of all the things in the world you could have chosen to do, you chose this. And when I weigh those two things, the best part and the worst part of it, I'm still really glad I did this. And I think it's been great. But anyway, that's the end of that. So let's go to the next slide. I want to share with you some things that I feel are really important. These are probably my top, I don't know how many of them did. We'll say top 10 because I don't think you guys will count either. Lessons that I think are just so important when we're mentoring. And the first one is simply stopping by and seeing a kid is just not enough. We are working with kids that there is so much more to what's going on in their lives than just the little things that are happening in most kids' lives. And stopping by and giving them a pat on the head and a little Snickers bar is not going to make the change in their lives that we're hoping that we can make. As Amanda alluded to earlier, I had the opportunity to do mentoring before we had Check and Connect. And a lot of what we did was just exactly that. We were stopping in, seeing the kids and giving them a real cheer that, you know, you're doing great. But what we have the opportunity to do now is so much more than that. When we go in there and we're armed with data and we know what's going on in their lives and we've met with the families and we have all these other things, it can just really, really make a difference in the students' lives. And if currently, and I doubt this is true for anybody that's loves their mentoring enough to even be on this today, if this is what you're doing, if what you're doing is just stopping by and seeing students, I just invite you to take it to the next step. You can really, really be a difference in kids' lives. And you will do that by doing a lot more than just stopping by and seeing them. All right, next slide. The next one is that being involved with the whole family is such a must. We have these kids for how many hours of the day? I mean, really, we're probably seeing them about an hour a week. So if we're not bringing in the whole team, the whole family, then what we're doing is great, but it will never be sufficient. We can be a source of information for the whole team. We can explain to them, to the whole team or to the family, not only what's going on at school, but why it's going on at school. We can help them to navigate the school system. A lot of the kids, especially the ones that are back in trial home placements, the families don't know how to navigate the school system. And so if we're being a resource to them, if we're helping them, then we can really make a difference, not only with the students, but to help the whole family. One thing that's difficult, and I'll be the first to admit that this is difficult, it's tough to go into families where there are so many unmet needs of our students and to not judge. And it is so important that when we are working with the team and with the family, that we are not judging, but we're going in ready to listen and ready to hear what the team feels like would be helpful and to navigate them and not to be just another person. Now, I know a lot of times that teams and families are resistant to us, right? We're just another government person that's coming in to watch over them. So take a minute here, if you would, and tell me, what are some ways that you guys are using to overcome that? How are you helping to become a vital part of the team instead of just that other person? So unmute yourself, talk, or put it in the message, the chat if you're shy to talk, but I'd love to hear, how are you guys overcoming that?
Can I say something?
Yes,
I'm thinking that communication, making good relationship with all the team players is a key, you know, because whenever we are working, what you're saying is something that it's happening to me too, you know, that whenever you're asking for the foster parents to make an schedule for homework at school, and they have so many things to do, like work probably, or they have so many kids at home, it's hard because you need to find a way to be to say what you need and why. Always explain why we are asking for those things, what is the benefits that we are providing to these kids, because sometimes honestly I'm super mad about the situation, but I need to understand that I have to talk to the foster mother, that I have to make a good relationship with her. So I'm calling her, I'm telling her, you know what, I understand you're busy, that you have another work and everything, but you need to understand, communication is always a key for me to talk to my parents. And when I'm asking something, I'm not demanding. I'm trying to, we are trying to find a way to help these kids, right? So we were going to be, for me, it's more about making a good relationship and explain them um why I'm requesting to do something. And even when I'm at family team meetings, I'm always telling them I'm here to help. I'm here to provide some guidance if you need, even if I find something that is new, like when we come to the webinars and you gave us some things, I send to my foster parents and say, look, you can find this, you can go here, you can, train yourself, because some of my foster parents, they are new too. So they are learning. Everybody's learning, even that at least I have a lot of, years doing this, but some of my foster parents, even the school, they are new people that they need to learn every day what our job is,
Juliet,
all about.
I love what you said there about relationships, because I think that's probably the key thing, that if they know that we are on their team, that if we have that relationship, they're a lot more apt to call us and enlist us. Ashley said, make communication meaningful, easy, and have a way they can easily reach out to you when they need an answer. I love that, because if we become accessible to them, and Ashley, you're right on with this, when we become accessible to them and we're able to be there right when they need the question answered, the likelihood of them coming back and asking us things just goes up so much. So much of what I have learned about relationships and building that with family as well as with students, I have learned from watching the mentors in my district navigate that. And I know as soon as they get a student, the first thing they do is to call the foster family or call the parents and start that relationship from the very beginning, and then call and have a conversation with the DCFS worker or the JJYS worker to establish that relationship. So then they become the point person that is going to kind of bring the whole thing together and make the whole team be the point person for that whole thing. And I've just seen how much kids in our district have benefited when the mentors in our district take the time to really bring that whole team together to benefit the student. So, all right, Amanda, let's go to the next slide. This really, I think, plays to the things we learned about today. I love the things Jennifer taught us about, and I think having an understanding of those resources that are available to our students and the timelines on those and how we can go to access them. These are vital things for mentors to know and understand. We should be, I like to say, as a mentor, you're a warehouse. And on your shelves should be all of this understanding so that people, families, teams, the students themselves can come to you, and that you will have a knowledge of what the community resources are. You'll understand what the school resources are. And one thing we have a pretty large district, but the resources that are available, for instance, at Skyline, are not going to be the same resources that are available at Kearns. And each mentor needs to understand what school resources are there. And that sometimes includes too, when you have elementary kids that are being enrolled in an elementary school, to be familiar enough with the teachers to make sure that the student is going to be placed in a classroom where there might be a more nurturing environment so that they can flourish in that environment that they're being put in. Know about IEPs and 504s. What's your role in helping these happen? What's the caseworker's role? Know how to do this. Know the school staff. When you do that and you bring that to the table, you really will become an asset to the kids that you work with. All right, Amanda, next slide. Anybody want to talk to this? Why is it so important that you make friends with the school staff? Why is it essential that those secretaries, those other essential personnel in the school know who you are and why you're there? Anybody want to speak to that? Why is it so important that they know why you're there?
Well, I would say because they are the first face that we see every day that we come there, and the one that they mostly help us to do or find any resource that we need, they call our students. So, and they are the heart of the school, mostly, you know. So the thing is, we need to make a better relationship with them. You know, I do, you know, to be gentle, to be polite and care for them too, as well they do when we come. Because honestly, I have been, well, I have been telling you, I have been here for a long time. So having a secretary hugging me or hug me every time that we go to out of break is amazing, because honestly, we are not treating them as another co-worker. I'm sorry, you know, we treat them as a part of this team because we are a team, you know. So yeah, I'm thinking that they are very important on this.
Yeah, somebody put in the comments, they are your lifeline, and they really are. They are the lifeline. If you want to be able to see your kids, if you want to know what's going on, I'm sure all of you have received phone calls from schools saying, this is what's going on with your kid, right? And if we don't have that relationship with them, we aren't going to be as effective as we could possibly be.
Anne?
Yeah.
I have a comment.
Okay.
A lot of times we find out that we have kids that we need to serve in the schools. They kind of come the back route. They go through, instead of going through caseworkers and youth in custody, you know, through our YES program, they wind up at the school. And if you have a relationship, a close relationship to the secretaries, they will call you or email you and tell you, hey, we just got word that these two kiddos that just started today are in custody. We spoke to the foster parents, and then I can, you know, then we can as a team jump on that and get the kids paperwork and get them involved in our mentoring. So that has been a really important thing for me. Is I cannot tell you how many times that has happened. Instead of it going one way, it kind of goes through the back door, and we're able to meet with these kids and serve them.
That's such a good point and so true. We do see that often. I mean, we'd love to have every kid that we have. I'll get the intake, I'll send it out to the mentor, and we can have it run that way. But in reality, it doesn't always work that way. And when we have school staff, especially those front end people, the secretaries, the ones that are going to have that first interaction with people as they come into the school, as we have them on our team and we're on their team, it's just such an advantage for our kids. So make nice. And I know the mentors in our district at the end of the school year, you're always seeing them put together a little snack bag or something for them. It's amazing to me what Diet Coke will do for people. If you find out that that secretary loves her Diet Coke, it is so worth that $1.25 to go get her one, and she'll be your friend forever. So think of ways that you can make even better connections with the school staff. And that goes not just for secretaries, but that goes for your counselors, for your admin, for your SROs, for everybody. It's us making that. Yeah.
One thing that I do that I don't know if you like, but on Thanksgiving, that's the day that I give a thank you note to all the secretaries or special eds or everybody that helped me at the school, because Thanksgiving for me is one of the best holidays to be grateful for them, you know. So that's what I do every year. So
Wonderful.
just so you know, just so you
Great
know.
idea. Thanks for sharing that. All right, next slide. And this one kind of goes along with the last one we were talking about. Oh, I didn't think that was which one. Oh, no. Amanda, are we on the right slide?
Maybe.
Yes, there you go. This is the right slide. Sorry about that. So this is another thing is don't hesitate to insert yourself with all of the different meetings and the different things that are going on at school and with their agency. There's some people that there's some of the mentors that I have heard say, well, you know, I've never been invited to a child and family team meeting. Oh, please don't wait to be invited. When you first call your caseworker to introduce yourself, please say to them, when is the next child and family team meeting? I would love to attend that meeting. If you have MTSS meetings at your school and you know that one of your students is going to be on the agenda that day, don't wait for an invitation to that meeting. Let them know, hey, I'll be attending that meeting so I can give you some background on this student. The same with the IEP meetings. Now, you're not always going to be asked to sign the IEP. That's not really your role. But for you to be in the IEP meetings or the 504 meetings, that's very appropriate. So if there's any meeting that you feel like you could be to and it would benefit your student to be there, don't wait for an invitation. Just go to the meeting. It can really be a benefit to your students. Oh, Amanda, you were right. Can we go back to the other one? That was the next one.
Like the weirdest block with what's on my screen. Okay, that should be there.
There we go. Sorry about that. That was me getting mixed up. I wrote down what the slides were. I got them out of order. So we are very, very lucky in our district that we have a lot of mentors. And so we do a lot of collaborating. We get together for staff meetings once a month. We talk about, oh my goodness, did you know this? And what about this? And how do I navigate this situation? But I just want to emphasize the importance of collaborating. Whether it's with other mentors in your district, if it's other mentors outside of your district, if it's with the caseworkers, the foster parents, the school staff, the counselors, anybody that's working with your student, go to them and collaborate. We are not, here's mentoring over here, and then over here is everybody else on the team. What we want to create is this environment where we're all on the same team. We're all doing this together. I think some of the best answers that we have come up with in our district with mentoring have come from other mentors. When we will have times where we'll bring a problem to a meeting and they'll say, oh, you know what? I dealt with something like that. Let me tell you about this. And the other thing that I have noticed is that you never really understand this job. I think it takes at least 3 years to kind of fool yourself into thinking that you understand it. But I'm 25 years in and I'm still going to meetings and thinking, you know, you get all the mentors together and thinking, oh my goodness, how did I not know that? How did I not know that that was even a thing. So don't, learn from each other. There's not a really good handbook for how to do this job. So what we want to do is we want to learn from the experiences of others. All right, Amanda, now to my favorite thing, because I think this is probably the biggest lesson and the most important thing that we do. And that is listen. Just listen to our students. So often we think that we're in there to talk to them about graduation, help them understand the importance of school. Yeah. We're supposed to do all that. But the most important thing we're going to do is to listen, because the one thing I have figured out is that when we really listen to our students, we can understand that generally their actions, no matter how unreasonable they seem, are very reasonable in their mind when you understand the context. So let's understand the context. I've also found that oftentimes my idea of success for the student doesn't look like their idea of what success would look like. So when we find out what that is, when we find out why they're behaving the way they are, and also what success looks like for them, it can really help us to understand where they are and how we help them to get to the next step. Oftentimes, too, there is a part of the situation that we think they understand that they don't understand. What is that part? What is the part that the information that they're missing? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I have had students say to me, well, I thought that, and then fill in the blank. I thought that, when I turned 16, they were going to kick me out of foster care. I thought that, my parents I was never going to see my parents again. I thought that. So what aren't they understanding? How can we help them understand things more clearly? And then I think a really, really important thing that we all need to understand is that, have I really established a connection with this student that is going to allow them to share with me what's really going on? Those relationships, Check and Connect is completely a relationship-based program. So we have to establish the relationships if we want to understand any of these other things. Carolyn just posted in the chats, and so true. These students are just finding their way. They're still out there trying to find how they are going to navigate their lives, and their lives happen to be incredibly messy. So are we establishing the connection? Are we establishing that relationship? And in my mind, the very best way that we do that is by listening. Are we listening to what their needs are? Are we listening to what's going on in their life? And I think when we get to that position where they're sharing with us and they understand that we understand and that we care, that's where we go to be able to really make a difference. All right, next slide. Well, any comments about listening before we go on? I wanted this to be a discussion, and then I forgot and just started talking and didn't let anybody else talk. So sorry about that. All right, let's move on then. Okay, this is kind of, we want to let other people take charge when we're mentors. And let me tell you what I mean by that. So often when we get in and we start working with kids, people are very prepared to sit back and say, ooh, the mentor's got it, I don't need to do anything. And we don't want to ever put ourselves in that position. Now, we don't want to be passive and whatever happens, I'm just here. It's not that. But we want to thread that needle, navigate that hard line where we are pushing things, we are being a real asset in being able to move the student down the road, but at the same time, we're not the ones in the driver's seat. We're there to help. So we don't want to be passive. We want to be prepared. We want to be knowledgeable. We want to really work on those communication skills where we can make that principal think that it was his idea to move this student to the classroom where he belonged in the first place. But it's that effective communicating and almost that servant leadership model where we're here to serve and do things, but what we're really doing is pushing things down the road in the direction where they need to be. But being able to do that and not come off as I'm in charge, I'm doing it here. It's a tough one, but it's something that we need to have on our minds and be cognizant about how we're doing things. The last point here is just stay in your lane. When I see mentors that are out trying to find housing for foster families, you're probably not in your lane. We need to be aware of the whole student. We need to understand that there are things that needs that have to be met before other needs can be met. But we need to work with others, let others take charge in those areas, make others aware of those needs, but not necessarily be the one that's driving it. Make sense? Any comments on that? All right. Find the successes. We talk about this in the training that if you can get a student to have a success, chances are they're going to have another success and another success and another success. And pretty soon they're having a whole bunch of successes. On the other hand, if a student has a failure, they're probably going to have another failure and another failure until they're spiraling the other way. So when we have a student that is having a series of failures, what is the greatest thing we can do to help them? I know, super easy. You feel almost dumb answering this question, right? Because it's so simple. But what would be the most important thing we could do when we see a student start to spiral downward? Just type it in the messages, guys. I won't call on you. Oh, Carolyn, I love that. How can I help you? How can I help you? That's a good one. Let them know we are there and they are not alone. I love that too. That's great. Talk about a thing they have done well that week. That's so good. If we can help them to see themselves in a different way, you know, because I know when I start to have failures, if I even have a failure, it makes me feel like I am the failure. But if we can show them, no, here's a positive thing. How you see your students really matters. And if we see our kids as these broken, hopeless, never going to get out of this kids, they feel it. Their BSO meters are pretty right on. They know when you're just saying stuff. But when we can show them and point to a success, no matter how small it is, that can really help them to do better. All right, next one.
We had a few more pop into the chat real quick. Just wanted to read that.
Yes, I do. Hold on. Ask them what. Okay. Ask them what they like the best about themselves and their favorite subject. Oh, I love that. See, because you just changed it from all the negative stuff to the positive stuff. That is a great idea. Okay, let's see. Ask them to tell you 3 great things going on in their life at that moment. Perfect. See how as mentors, we can really make a difference when we can change the focus of what's going on. And when they're having negative times and we start talking about positive things, when we start helping them see the good things that are going on, it can really make a difference. So thank you for those. Okay, what's the next one? I can't even remember. I don't know what the next slide's going to be. Oh, how about this one, guys? This is something we all need. Take a deep breath and then take a mental health day. It's okay for us to step away from this for a while. I had one of my mentors ask me the other day, she'd had a particularly rough day with some students and some really hard situations. And she came over and said, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to turn it off. I don't know how to deal with all this stuff. And I told her a method that I have used over the years is that I get in my car at the end of the night and I say, okay, I did everything I could do for as many students as I could that day. I'm done now and I'm going to turn it off. And I promise tomorrow when I come, I will do the same thing. I will do exactly the same thing. I will try my very hardest to be an influence for good in any way that I can. And then I walk away. And for me, for some reason, that helps. And there may be a way that will help you, that will really help you to be able to deal with it. The problem is if we let ourselves get run down by this job that we're doing, we don't do it very well. So what we want to do is be able to give ourselves time to breathe and to digest a lot of the awful hard things that we deal with pretty consistently. Let's see, we had a few more comments in here. Consistency. Oftentimes their lives are chaotic and they don't know we aren't going anywhere. And we are there to support, lift, and build trust. Yes, yes, wonderful. That is great. That is exactly what we want to be doing, is building that relationship. What you look for, you will find. Oh, yes. If you look for failures, you will find them. If you look for successes, you will find them. Yes. And I want to point out, I want to take that point that you made there, Ashley, and I want to apply it to this last one that this last slide that we're on right now too. If we're looking for successes in what we're doing, we're going to find it. But oftentimes it's really easy to just look for the failures. And unfortunately, our kids give us lots of failures to look at. So to intentionally look for the successes takes a lot more energy than to just go with the failures that are so easy to see. And also, sometimes we think, and Amanda, you can go to the next slide on this. Oftentimes we think that somehow how they accept our help or how successful we are is the indicator of success, and it's not. We're here to be a light. We're here to be a role model. We're here to be a caring adult. But what we're not here to be is somebody who is going to totally change the direction of a student's life. We probably don't have the ability to do that. So we have to remember sometimes kids are ready for help, sometimes they are not. And that doesn't determine the validity of what we're doing. So do your best and then let it go. And know that whenever we throw positivity out into the world, it's probably going to come back in some way. And sometimes it's ways that we don't see and we don't understand and we may never see. But it is good stuff. If we're doing good stuff, it's good stuff. So anyway, Amanda wanted to put us into some chat rooms. Is that right, Amanda? Some breakout rooms?
put it in the reminder. So surprise! So we've been doing this with our coordinators and their webinars and had some success. So we thought we'd try it with you all. And especially since we had some time today. So you have me and Ann Jones and our friend Charlene Hicken, who are all Check and Connect trainers, and we're going to be brave and try and host these breakout rooms. So what your options are is breakout room with Ann, more conversation about her experience as a mentor and a mentor coordinator. Charlene, this is going to be a surprise to you. I'm changing what we talked about this morning, and I would like you, if you're willing, to take on the conversation about making sure data is turned in for period 1. I know that you've been able to submit your data, so I think you'd be able to help with any questions or concerns there. And then I'm going to hang back and stay in the main room. So I'm actually going to make 2 breakout rooms for Ann and Charlene, and I'll stay in the main room. And then where I'm at can be anything Check and Connect, or some suggestions for future webinars, whatever conversation you want to have. So let me get these breakout rooms open. Which is
Amanda,
always
before we do that, can I
Yeah.
just go back to, there were some more really good comments that came in on the
Please.
chat.
Oh, I see that now. Yes, Dave, let's share
One thing
those.
I've learned after years and years of doing this is that the work we do impacts our youth 5 to 10 years, not necessarily right now. And hang on for them to mature a little bit and to realize what we have been trying to help them with will be useful. Sometime down the line, success will come because of our work. Thank you, Evian. Absolutely true. So thanks. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Please, Evian's one of our champions that's been with us for a while too. So I appreciate you taking time to read that comment. Okay, so I'm going to open those 2 breakout rooms. Anne and Charlene, I'm going to have to quickly assign you to each one. So give me just a minute to make that. And maybe the universe just was kind. So, oh, hang on. We're going to do it again. 1 second. We want to let participants choose. There was one more button, my friends. Okay. So Anne, if you'll go into room 1, and then Charlene, if you'll go into room 2, and I can assign you if that's confusing. Let's see.
Do you notice Amanda knows me well enough? And go into room 1, and then she says, I'll do it for you.
We have been a team for a few years now, is all.
Okay, I'm going to room 1.
All right, thank you. And then Charlene, I'm looking for you on my magical list, and you might have already gone. Let's see. Nope, there she is. All right, let's get Charlene in room 2. Okay, so if you want to, you should have a pop-up on your screen that says join a room. So if you want to talk to Anne about her experience, you just click on room 1. If you want to go in and talk to Charlene about making sure your data is submitted, any hurdles or questions you're having there, you go into room 2. And if you have any other Check and Connect conversations, or I'll get out my notepad and pen if there's conversations about professional learning that we want to add for the spring. So again, you should see like a little pop-up menu, or what do you call it, screen, to join those breakout rooms if you're interested. And friends, I'm going to give them just a minute to move, and then we'll start a conversation if you stay with me. Also, if you only have one screen and you need me to move you, I'm happy to do that too. You can just come off mute and let me know which room you'd like to go to. Oh, no, we understand if you have other things to do. So thank you for taking time to stay with us during the presentations this morning.
Okay. Amanda, I don't get anything.
Where do you want to go, Julieta?
Number 1.
Okay,
I will do that.
There you go, friend.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else that wants to move? All right. If not, you're welcome to come off mute. I still have the chat open. Oh, Amy, I just saw it. As I said, I had the chat open. So Amy, I'll move you to 1 right now. What do we want to chat about in the land of Check and Connect, my friends? Do you have any specific questions? All right, Vicki, I'll get you to 2.
Amanda, I had a thought while Anne was presenting to help connect our ETCAs and checking connects a little better.
Let me get my notepad, friend. All right, go for it.
Just as she was talking about knowing and understanding your school as a mentor, and then other schools having different options or knowing things differently, I think it would be really effective for our ETCAs when our kids are getting ready to transition. A couple months before, even like connecting with the Check and Connect and talking through their needs, because maybe where we're looking to place them isn't the best place, and a Check and Connect may have insight into, they have insight into their school, and so maybe they would be able to direct a little bit more and say, I really think a kid would be better served XYZ.
Yeah,
Just having more dialogue previous to the kids landing there. I think that might be useful for ETCAs to better understand the schools and maybe make that connection with the Check and Connect mentor so that they're, I know we're trying to make connection when the kids leave, but maybe if we can start that dialogue even just with understanding the school previous to making that transition.
I think that's a great bridge to build, Evian. And I think that, that's really wise because in some of our bigger districts, like that, what you said about the placement could really affect what pathway or if they're into a trade or something. I know some of the, alternative schools could be beneficial for our kids that are credit deficient or, things along those lines. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
I think so often we just look at here's home and so here's the school and we're looking alternative, and maybe Check and Connect would have some insight that would be more helpful than just landing them.
Well, and I think even if landing is the thing that's necessary, I think there's still some value because the mentors would know the school and maybe be like, take this math teacher versus that math teacher, kind of those
Right.
conversations
Yeah,
too.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, all right. Any other questions, friend, or comments? Annie, I think you're trying to share with us, but you're on mute, friend. Do you want me to unmute you? Let's see if I can. It just gives me the ask button. So I'm not sure how to unmute that, Annie, but you're welcome to add to the chat if your microphone's not working.
Actually, my whole computer is acting weird. I have not been able to see a single thing the whole time, but I love the whole presentation. I appreciate all the stuff about the ATV and the WIWA and Anne is always a wonderful source. So I want you to know how grateful I am. I couldn't participate, but I'm glad you were able to see me. I've been sitting here wondering if you could even see me at all. I see nothing. I just hear the meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, so we can see you. And I don't know if you heard earlier, I'm recording as always. So hopefully you can go back and watch it after the fact. And I know that Jennifer's sending me a handout and Anne said I could share out her slides. So we'll make sure you get that one way or the other.
Thank you. And Julieta is such a wonderful resource. She is a perfect example of how we're supposed to function. So tell her thank you.
All right, well, and her supervisor's on the call, so you did that directly, my friend. So Riley added to the chat for us, how do we deal with DCFS when they're not very communicative? I get kind of like, I guess the word would be stalkery, like emails and phone calls and text messages, but does anybody have a more appropriate answer? Let's see. Oh, Darcy, thank you, Carolyn. Oh, see, this is why we love our coordinators because they think beyond the moment. So we have, let's think what those friends are called. DCFS has educational liaisons, and they're broken out by different regions. So in our Salt Lake Valley, we have Darcy Peterson, and I know that's who Carolyn works with. But there are 5 of them, or maybe 6 of them statewide. And if you get on the DCFS website and put in educational liaison, or go to the interactive map where you can click on the counties, it will show you the contact information for those folks. And they're really helpful to nudge our caseworkers along if needed to get some contacts for you. And they also can help with contacts with the TAL workers. And my team meets with those folks about 4 times a year. So if there's things that I can relay back, you're welcome to share that with me and I'll relay back to them as well. Let's see. If you have Darcy's emails, if you add Darcy to the emails, they get back to you faster. Yes. CC those supervisors, my friends. It is sometimes the necessary step to get us our communication moving along. I appreciate that. All right. Any other questions or comments? While I see my friend Melissa on the screen, I'm wondering if she would share with us. I know we talked about 504s and IEPs and not necessarily being like super informed or involved. Like, what is our lane with those? Do we need to have information on it or just know they exist?
Well, I mean, a Check and Connect mentor is not a required member to be there, but obviously they would be super important to be there or at least have their information. So if you know that an IEP meeting or 504 is coming up, you can certainly invite yourself or ask to be invited. And they can have the parents, notify the parents that you would be coming or just give the information. You have the data. And so if you can give that information, I think that's super important too. And hopefully if you're communicating with the family and the parents, then you can just request from the parents, can I come? Would you like me to come and be there and be part of that? So, and because you do have a lot of good information, you see what's going on at school, everybody sees a little piece, right? And so the more people, the better. And just, it really, an IEP and 504 meeting really should just be a big brainstorming session. And so to have the knowledge that you have and the other team members' knowledge, it's always better.
I really appreciate that analogy because I think sometimes we get, well, at least I'll speak for myself, get intimidated inviting myself to meetings. But when I think about it as a collaboration and a brainstorming session, that's a lot less intimidating to go to. So I appreciate that. So yeah, no, I think the mentors do have some valuable information to add to the conversation. And what I have appreciated is sometimes you can't get all the information, but just knowing they exist is enough to help the counselor and the educators get, supports and resources in place. So.
Yeah. And then another thing is, when they're 14, then they're required to be invited if they come or not. And so if they don't come, then you also have information about maybe like what their desire, and the teacher should actually be asking them, what their goals and desires and things like that are. But if you might know some other things too that they've communicated to you that would be super helpful, that might be motivating to them or, to help
No, I
them.
agree. Sorry, I got distracted by
That's
the chat.
Okay. I saw it too.
Oh. Yeah, and you could have the caseworker invite you to the IEP meetings as well. And I think what was valuable that Melissa said too is even if you don't get invited to the meeting, you can share your information, send an email, send yourself, send a novel or whatever is appropriate if it's a screenshot of information. Especially if it's after hours or something that doesn't work with your schedule, if you can at least send your information, I think that's super value. And then Albert, I know Dave Solomon on my team knows all of the JJYS friends. So let me put his email in the thing or the chat right now. And then as far as the other groups, I'm trying to think.
Well, I actually was like, do you have a link to who the other on the DCFS page where we find those?
I will do that really quick. Let me put Dave's email in. We can multitask like the best of them. Because I was just actually on that website this morning. There it is. Okay. So this is right into the TAL. This link I'm putting in first because that's where I was this morning. Now let me go find you guys that interactive map. Okay. That is right here. Let's get that link in the chat. So that's the interactive map, but if you click on the counties, there's my words, it will pull up the list of everybody that's right in there. And let's see, let me double check that I'm not a liar. And let's make sure Darcy's on here. Okay, that's just the main offices. So let me dig a little deeper to find our education liaisons. Hang on just a moment. This is some of the fun of learning these websites, and they've changed it. So bear with me. There we go. I'm just digging around here. Let's see. Not finding it right on their website, but I know it exists. So I will just make a note to add those contacts to the follow-up. And if our friend Julia was not training, she would probably have that for us, but I will get that to you. The DSPD contacts, I think that's going to be a different group too, so I will add that to the list and then share that out as well, Albert. All those lovely communication or agencies we communicate with. So, all right, friends. Anything else you want to talk about in the land of check and connect? I want to, while I have this group, say thank you. I have seen all of your names on the data submissions, so you are awesome rock stars who have been turning in your data, so I very much appreciate that. It's been nice. I was just bragging about that during the coordinators meeting yesterday, that we have over 1,000 entries for period 1 already, and it's just so exciting to see it all coming in. And that's not even with some of our big districts reporting. So, all right, friends, well, we have just a couple minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and close those rooms and bring everybody back. Looks like Anne's back with us. So Anne, I'm just closing the other room. Thank you for taking time. Did your conversation wrap up? Oh, you're on mute, friend. All right. I don't know. Your sound is just not our friend today. All right. No worries. Thank you so much, everyone, for the time today. I look forward to this every month, and we will take a break. Won't see you again. Oh, wait, we have a December one. I lied. After December, we'll take a break till February. I'm getting ahead of myself. I do this all the time. I aged myself last week. I got to slow down. Anyway, thank you. Thank you. Reach out if you have questions. I look forward to seeing you all again soon, especially the friends coming to the refresher in December. Take care and have a happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
Thank you.